Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to some more Lost in the Pond. It has been ages, and part of the reason was because I was reacting to a lot of his videos and I wanted to leave it a bit of time and then sort of get some more reactions because I was reacting to him like every other day and I was pretty much just getting through all his videos. So if I left it like I have and then come back to see some more of his posts, I would react to them. And yeah, I've seen he's just posted this, and this is the type of video that I like because it's just talk about these random things that maybe I have thought about in the past and it's not true or whatever. And yeah, but oh, it's so dirty, mate. I've just bought a new setup and it's already dirty as hell, man. You hate to see it, but yeah, let's get into this video. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. I'm going away very soon and I'm sick, so I'm trying to do, I'm not sick really, I'm still got a cough, but that's it. I'm trying to do loads of videos in advance, but yeah, if I'm coughing in the videos, I apologize. It's because my antibiotics haven't helped. I've now been given some new antibiotics and I've now been given steroids as well. So hopefully when I'm back recording, I won't be coughing. But yeah, over these videos that I'm all recording together, I'm probably still coughing through them. So yeah, I apologize. I'm thinking about doing a live stream for the game tomorrow. I don't know if this video is going to be posted on the day of the game, England versus the US, but I'm going to stream like a watch along and banter a lot of you because obviously we're the best team. Nah, I'm joking, but well, I'm not joking actually. But nah, it's just gonna be a fun little stream. I think I'm gonna do, and yeah, if you want to see it, I'll be streaming on my channel, so watch out for that. But yeah, let's jump into this and see some of these myths that British people believe about the US.
Yeah, we're rolling. Hello, this video is sponsored by BritBox.
It's got the English shirt as well. Come on, BritBox. I know what this is. This is where you can watch British channels. I would let this run through.
A streaming service for Britain's most beloved TV shows. I'm Lawrence Brown and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to myths. Specifically, myths that British people like myself believe about the United States. Real fans of Lost in the Pond will know that I've already done a part 1 in this series, so I will link to that at the end. And if you want to become a real fan and you're not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. Thanks. You see, after doing part 1 and having lived in the United States for 14 years and 12 days, I realised that there were just lots of falsehoods that I used to believe about the United States of America, thus warranting a second video. And so, without further ado, here are 7 myths that British people believe about the United States, part 2. I used to have this...
To be fair, I mean, you do see a lot of, in like films and stuff, you do see a lot of like swimming pools in people's gardens. It's probably because no one has a swimming pool in the UK. So the contrast is there is people who have swimming pools in the US. It's such an alien thing to think about having a swimming pool living in the UK. So I can kind of see that, to be fair.
Friend when I lived in England who came from a wealthy family, and it was always the topic of conversation among people whenever we'd speak about this person that they had a swimming pool, and this was very, very unusual for Britain. But American television shows and Jack Black's Instagram page tend to give us this impression that every house in America has its own swimming pool. And this isn't even close to being true, because a lot of Americans I speak to say they can't even afford a swimming pool, but some would say that even if they could, they wouldn't want to put up with the maintenance of it because, you know, it takes a lot to keep that thing clean and chlorified and whatever else you have to do to it. And most houses I've been to simply don't have one. But I will say this, I think they are slightly more prevalent in the US than they are in Britain. Some houses will have them, some apartment complexes have them. In fact, I lived at one that did.
An apartment complex having a swimming pool. See, I would love to have a swimming pool. Obviously, the UK ain't gonna work, but it would just be fun, man.
And it was always packed, so I never went in it. I talk a lot on this channel about the sheer size of the United States, but there's also something to be said of the slender size of Britain. So growing up there, you very much got used to this idea that you could drive anywhere in the country well within a day, actually within a third of a day. And because Britain becomes the kind of yardstick by which you see the rest of the world, you sort of assume you can do that in other countries. And for me, the United States was surely no different. So when I visited in 2004, my ex-American girlfriend probably laughed at me when I suggested we do New York, California, and the Grand Canyon in a single week. Because it is big, right? One of the shortest routes from the East Coast to the West Coast is Savannah to San Diego. It takes 36 hours by car. Now, if you were to drive this route, which seems unlikely, you might be thinking, it's only a day and a half, we'll bring DVDs. Just remember that you have to eat and sleep and go to the toilet and take pictures of yourself over something iconic. You're probably not doing this journey in less than 3 days, so that's more or less half your week gone with just that. And that's the shortest route. If for whatever reason you find yourself driving from Fort Kent, Maine all the way to Seattle, Washington, that's about 50 hours by car, and even then you have to cheat by driving through Canada. I am old enough to remember the 1994 World Cup.
To be fair, I've seen a lot of on Twitter. There's a lot of people. There's a few American football channels that I do actually watch. I've had a few conversations with them on YouTube because I done a few of those I've done a few football reactions to like the US and Canada, and sort of watching their qualifications for the World Cup. And I sort of just saw through that. There's a lot of people who love it, man. And especially with England versus the US on Black Friday, I'm interested to see just how many people watch it because I think, obviously, in terms of the percentage of the population, it will be less in the UK. But I think more people will watch it in the US than the UK or than England because there's just so many more people. And obviously, it's the day that it is, all this stuff. I feel like they've cancelled other sporting events for it. I might be completely wrong. But yeah, I'm expecting a lot of people and a lot more people than England or English because of the massive difference in population. But yeah, it's always interesting to see, man. I just love the World Cup, to be honest. I've been loving it this year. All these upsets. Canada should have won, you know what? But yeah, I'm excited for it. Anyway, what's he going to say? I'm just rambling at this point.
And for those of you who don't remember it, it was staged here in the United States. And at the time, I remember a lot of the narrative coming out of the British media was that the United States and its people don't care about football/soccer. But now that I live here, I've discovered that that is still sort of true. But not to the degree I thought it would be. I mean, sure, soccer is still way behind the big four, so NFL, baseball, hockey, and basketball. But whenever I've been into one of those authentic British-style pubs that you find in the United States, and there's a football match on from the Premier League, there's usually quite a lot of people in there, and I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, that's just other English immigrants. And that is partly true, but you'll hear a lot of American accents too. And, you know, they'll be bashing the referee along with the rest of us. Not literally, we get a bit rowdy. And here in Chicago, where you have the Chicago Fire, I often meet soccer fans proudly wearing
is he back in Chicago? Wait, didn't he move away from Chicago? Oh, no, he didn't. I swear he moved away from Chicago, but I'm talking out my arse.
Jersey. You have the Chicago Fire. I often meet soccer fans proudly wearing the jersey of Manchester United. And once every 4 years, we have this little thing come around called the World Cup. And if the United States is involved in that, as they are at this one, Americans start to take an interest until they lose to England this Friday. The other thing to mention is that soccer is played quite widely in American schools, right? You'll just be driving down the road and you'll be like, ooh, there's a goalpost in America, and they're all over the place. And this is because American girls and boys seem to play soccer all the way throughout their education and then just stop. Although some do go on to play professionally, and in the case of the women's team, routinely win the World Cup. And while we're on the subject of televisual feasts, that brings us on to this. Sorting myth from fact is precisely the job of Karen Peary, the title character in the latest show to hit BritBox.
Let's see if I know any of these shows.
Cold Case.
Oh, it's just this one.
All of which are available on BritBox.
Line of Duty is a really popular series here, to be fair. I've not really watched it, but it's loved here, to be fair. Anyways, if you're interested, you know how it is. Go support him, all that kind of stuff.
Description below. Ah yes, that long-held belief that it is in fact Americans who are wrong with their pronunciations. But firstly, has anyone ever stopped to consider that maybe none of us are wrong? That there isn't a right way to say aluminium, there are just different ways. And secondly, I constantly get surprised while researching for this channel that American pronunciation of words or spelling of words or just the words themselves are often more in line with the word's origin. Take the word herb, for example, and watch my YouTube short about that very thing. The H, which most Americans drop, was originally silent in French. The way Americans pronounce the L's differently when they say paella is very much in line with how they do it in Spain. Our own British offering of paella isn't. And I could run down hundreds more examples, but that's what my YouTube shorts are for.
But they do numbers.
During my life on this planet, I've definitely heard British people make the assertion that Americans are rude. And it's a weird thing because, of course, there are rude Americans. You're never going to get rid of those. But there are rude British people too. And rudeness is something you pretty much find everywhere. And I have to say, at least in the Midwest, where I've lived in about 4 different cities now, I don't feel like I've encountered a higher degree of rudeness here than I did in the UK. And on the whole, just like with the UK, most people try to be polite. Actually, if anything, in the UK we have this thing among friends known as banter, in which we call each other names that if I said right now would probably get me demonetized. And you know, in my experience, that banter does spill over into rude territory, because sometimes Uncle Toby doesn't know when he's gone too far. So rudeness is sort of relative, and I tend to believe that there are no higher percentage of rude Americans than any other people on Earth. I think instinctively we all think this about every country on Earth except our own, because we know that our own country represents something of a rich tapestry of dialects. We just sort of become hyper aware of that fact and just assume that nowhere else in the world can say the same thing. And because I grew up in Britain, I was very much attuned to the fact that we had various Yorkshire dialects, Scouse, Mancunian, Geordie, Scottish dialects, Welsh dialects, Irish dialects, Cockney. But I didn't have that same awareness of American dialects. To us, there's just three. There's General American, whatever that is. There's the dialect used by mobsters in films set in New York. And then the South. And that's about it. But it was only after I lived here for a few years that I really started to hear quite a lot of differences in the sounds that would come from various parts of just the Midwest. You got the way they speak in Chicago, which is not that, is my best impersonation. You got the way they speak in Wisconsin, which I'm not even going to try to do. And then the way they speak in Indiana, which sounds closer to Southern in my opinion. And that's just the region I've lived in. You go to the East Coast, there's an absolutely mental amount of differences in the way people say words, or the words themselves, especially if you're ordering a sub sandwich. Same in the South, same in the West, same in the Rockies, same in the Pacific Northwest. It's almost a poem, just without the Great Plains. The Great Plains. And finally, I've touched on this before, I think that Americans, much like Germans, often get this reputation that they don't have a sense of humour. What we actually mean when we say that is they don't have a British sense of humour. How dare America differ from that in any conceivable way? But they do. They even spell humour differently.
You have to find it as funny as we do. To be fair, the humours are different, but there is certain comedies that I feel like are popular in both sides. I've never found The Office funny either, to be fair. I've never watched it fully through. And I like sort of sarcastic, stupid humour, but I've never found the British one or the US Office funny. But they're like both comedies. I feel like the US Office more so, that are popular in both countries. But then there's comedies in the UK that I'm pretty sure are popular in the US. And yeah, all that kind of stuff. There's just certain things that are funny, certain things that aren't. Like things like Friends, I don't know how that's funny, but people love it. I don't know how that's funny at all, man. And I'm going to offend people saying that, but maybe it's just one of those nostalgic things that just reminds people of their childhood and stuff. But even then, people love Friends that are my age. So yeah, I mean, it's just people just differentiating what they find funny and not.
Should have been our first clue. One of the chief accusations that you'll hear from the British is that Americans don't understand sarcasm. That to them, the concept of irony is reserved for the nation's industrial workers. That was a joke about iron. But this has never been my experience. Long before I moved to the United States, I recognized these very traits in The Onion, both the satirical rag and the vegetable, whose comedy doesn't get enough credit for how multi-layered it is. And if you're interested in this subject and you would like a more detailed breakdown on how these differences manifest, then check out my video, 5 Ways British and American Humour is Very Different. But that's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below.
Good to be back. Interesting to see this, bro. I'm so ill, man. I'm coughing my ass out still. It's so frustrating. I'm traveling in 2 days and I'm still coughing my lungs out. I always thought Brits were standoffish, so I was quite surprised when I was in London on the tube. When someone leaned across the aisle and asked, "Are you American?" I admitted that I was, and how did he know? He just said, "It's just that you're looking at everything. I'm just surprised he talked to me." My sister lived in London at the time, and he told me how Londoners don't talk to one another on the tube. I've never had that, to be fair, but yeah, that's just me. But I hopefully you enjoyed this video, and yeah, if you want more Lost in the Pond, let me know in the comments, and I'll bring it back. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.